And when we come into the valuation side, right, the valuation of the startup is a very different game. And generally, when we look into the valuation, people used to say that earlier that there should be a strong balance sheet, and those are the things that need to look at. Now the scenario is totally different. These days today, even the ideas are also being getting valued, right? I just have developed certain thing, I have got it patented, I feel that it may be a $1 billion idea, and what should be the value for that, right? Everybody, whenever he starts a business, he being very passionate about it, and he thinks about like the value of the business should be so and so, and he approaches the investor or to the angel investor with a saying like this should be the value of my company, right, with a certain preconceived notion, like looking into that these are the three companies in which the valuation have actually happened, and this is the value that they have fetched, and we should also fetch the similar sort of value, right? So he has a preconceived mind to that thing, right? But the question that need to be addressed is like what should be the methodology that need to be applied as a valuer, it being a challenge for us as well. It is not a simple game to value the startup, the reason being because you have to look into various dynamics to it, right? Because there's nothing like a historical background. You don't have any previous balance sheet you look into and built a certain sort of the trend line. There's nothing like a trend line. So it is all about like the future, and the future is something that is needed to be looked at with a certain amount of probability factor, right? It is nothing like that 100% I'm going to achieve this thing. If the promoter is saying or a startup is saying, of course there may be certain risk side as well. Suppose I as a startup have started something and that has an extraordinary margin to it, then the question that next arises is that there will be certain competitors that will be coming into it, right? And then the competitors will taking over the market. Okay, so we need to understand first thing, like whether we able to address to certain problems or not, we address to the certain situations or not. One thing is like what is the gap that I have analyzed to it, what is gap in the market, whether I able to address a certain problem, the gap that exists in the market or not, one. Then we generally people say that for valuing the startup we need to apply a model which is called a discounted free cash flow methodology, right? I would say that that is something which being a very sensitive model, and changing one variable the entire value changes, right? So it is not like just applying the discounted free cash flow model and valuing the startup. It should not go that like that way. You have to look into a certain scenario analysis, like what sort of scenarios that may be the most likely scenario, the most optimistic scenario, or the most pessimistic scenario, right? And then assign the probable weights to that thing. Okay. Then beside this, you also need to look into a scorecard methodology. The scorecard methodology talks about like who is the promoter, who is the founder. Suppose somebody who being just 25 years old and just pass out from the college and he's starting something. And suppose on the other side, the same similar sort of thing being started by a person, Mr. Sundar Pichari. Okay. The question is because he has a say in the market, he understand, he know the investor and all these things. So both the idea may be similar, but the value proposition may be different. Okay. So who is the promoter? Who is the founder? What sort of credentials that person hold? That is also very important while deciding the value proposition. Then we need to understand like what is the market share that particular idea actually holds, right? Then we need to also to understand like who are the existing peer companies, who are the existing competitors in the market are, and what is their positioning in the market. Whether next thing we need to understand like whether the idea that you are saying you have the patent for that thing or not, right? Then what is the risk that being associated to that particular idea, right? As well as like what sort of investors that may be looking at you in this particular domain where you are working for it. Okay, because investors are also very sector specific as well, right? So we need to look into analyze those things, and then we need to find like what should be the value or what should be the scorecard number that should be given to it. Another very important aspect is the co-founder. Who is the co-founder with you, right? The co-founder, how long you being associated with that co-founder, Okay, because you start, when you start the things start very well, everybody will say very good things about, but in the time to come, as it grow and as the money start coming, then there starts a rift. Okay, so we need to understand how the co-founders is, how the team is, what is the team size is, and what is the technical credentials the team has, right? Your idea may be a wonderful idea, but on the implementation side, whether you able to actually implement it or not, that is very important. Okay, so these are the key parameters or the key factors we need to look at beside the numbers what you're talking about. Okay, and then also the scenario part. So this actually help you deriving like what should be the value you should assign to the particular startup. Okay,